Doweling jigs are one of the most essential and versatile tools in woodworking, particularly when it comes to creating strong, precise joints for furniture, cabinets, frames, or virtually any woodworking project. These tools allow woodworkers to drill perfectly aligned holes for dowels, ensuring an incredibly tight and durable bond between two pieces of wood. Whether you're just starting out as a beginner or you're a seasoned woodworker looking to enhance your craftsmanship, mastering the use of a doweling jig is a key skill. In this video, we'll guide you step by step on how to use a doweling jig effectively, providing you with the knowledge to create joints that are not only sturdy, but also visually pleasing. Let's dive into the process and take your woodworking to the next level. First, let's talk about what a doweling jig is and why it's so important in woodworking. A doweling jig is a simple yet highly effective tool designed to help align and drill precise holes in wood for dowels. Dowels are small cylindrical rods, typically made of wood or metal, that act as connectors between two pieces of wood. The dowels fit snugly into holes drilled into each piece of wood, creating a secure bond when glued into place. This connection forms a joint that is not only strong and durable, but also precise, which is essential for ensuring the long-lasting strength and stability of your furniture, cabinetry, or any other woodworking project. Now, why use a doweling jig instead of other methods of joining wood, like screws, nails, or pocket holes? The answer lies in strength, precision, and aesthetics. Dowels provide a more elegant and precise connection, perfect for fine woodworking, where detail matters. Unlike screws or nails, which can create visible holes or require additional hardware, dowels are hidden within the joint, offering a clean and seamless appearance. The dowel joint distributes the stress evenly across the joint, ensuring not only the strength but also the longevity of your work. This makes dowels ideal for projects where structural integrity and a polished professional finish are equally important, especially in furniture design. Let's break down how to use a doweling jig, step by step. The first thing you need to do is choose the right doweling jig for your project. Doweling jigs come in many different types and sizes, with some being adjustable to accommodate different sizes of wood and dowels. When selecting a doweling jig, consider the size of the wood you are working with, as well as the thickness of the dowels. A more robust, adjustable jig will offer greater versatility, but for smaller projects or limited tasks, a fixed jig might be sufficient. Once you have the right jig, the next step is to set it up properly. You'll notice that most doweling jigs come with adjustable guides for drilling the holes. These guides are the heart of the jig. They will ensure your holes are drilled in the exact spot on each piece of wood, and most importantly, that they line up perfectly when the pieces are joined. The first thing to do is adjust the jig spacing guides to match the thickness of the wood you are working with. For example, if you are working with 1-inch thick wood, you'll want to adjust the jig to ensure the dowel holes are spaced evenly and correctly for that thickness. Next, you need to mark where the dowels will go. This step is crucial because without precise markings, you risk misaligning your joints. Start by measuring and marking where the dowels will be placed. Depending on your project, you might place the dowels in the middle of the wood, near the edges, or somewhere in between. For example, on a frame joint, you may want the dowels to be evenly spaced across the width of the joint. Use a pencil to mark these spots clearly, and double-check your measurements before moving on. After marking the positions for your dowels, the next step is to clamp the jig onto the workpiece. Position the jig over the marks you made earlier, ensuring that the guides line up perfectly with the marks on the wood. The jig should fit snugly and stay in place when you clamp it down. Use strong clamps to hold the jig in place while drilling, as any shifting could result in misaligned holes. Now it's time to drill the holes for the dowels. With your jig in place, it's important to use a drill bit that matches the size of the dowels you are using. The drill bit should fit snugly inside the dowel holes to ensure a tight fit when inserting the dowels. Before drilling all the way through, make sure to drill slowly and steadily to avoid splitting the wood or creating an uneven hole. Take your time with this step, as accuracy is key to making a strong, tight joint. Once you've drilled the holes, you can move on to the second piece of wood. Repeat the process by aligning the jig with the marked spots, clamping it securely, and drilling the corresponding holes. It's essential to make sure the holes on the second piece align perfectly with those on the first piece. If the holes don't line up, the joint won't be strong, and the pieces won't fit together correctly. That's why it's so important to double-check your measurements and jig setup before drilling. Now that you have holes drilled in both pieces of wood, it's time to insert the dowels. Apply a thin layer of wood glue into each of the dowel holes. Be careful not to apply too much glue, as it can cause a mess and interfere with the joint's fit. Insert the dowels into the holes in one of the pieces of wood, making sure they fit tightly and are aligned with the corresponding holes on the other piece. If the dowels don't fit snugly, you can lightly tap them into place using a hammer, but be gentle to avoid damaging the wood. Once the dowels are in place, join the two pieces of wood together. Align the holes and dowels, and carefully press the pieces together. You should feel some resistance as the dowels fit snugly into place. This is a good sign, as it means you've got a strong bond forming. Use clamps to hold the pieces together while the glue dries, ensuring that the joint stays tightly in place as it cures. After the glue has dried, you can remove the clamps and clean up any excess glue that may have squeezed out during the joining process. You may also want to sand the joint area lightly to smooth out any rough spots and ensure that the joint looks seamless. If you plan to stain or finish the wood, this is the perfect time to do so. Now that we've covered how to use a doweling jig, let's talk about some tips and tricks to make your doweling joints even stronger. First, always double-check your measurements and jig setup before drilling. Precision is key, and small mistakes can lead to big problems down the road. Second, don't skimp on the glue. A good quality wood glue will ensure the dowels hold securely and the joint remains strong over time. Finally, if you're working with larger pieces of wood or making multiple doweling joints, it's a good idea to use a doweling jig with adjustable guides. This will allow you to work more efficiently and ensure that each joint is perfectly aligned. In conclusion, a doweling jig is an essential tool for any woodworker who wants to create strong, precise joints. By following these simple steps, you can use a doweling jig to create professional quality joints for any of your woodworking projects. Remember, practice makes perfect, so don't be discouraged if your first few joints aren't perfect. With time and experience, you'll be able to create joints that are not only strong, but also beautiful. Thanks for watching, and happy woodworking!